Chapter 9. Kelson and Ray were both action-oriented people. After deciding to move to the Overlook Hotel in the Rocky Mountains, the couple quickly settled everything and finished packing in just a few hours. Siddle returned to her room to pack. She stuffed all the necessary items like clothes and books into the suitcase, pretending not to see Annabelle, and without blinking, pulled the luggage out of the room. Kelson helped her carry the luggage into the trunk of the car. Ray was next to the car packing the suitcase. After opening a khaki leather suitcase, she called out to Siddle in surprise, "Honey, did you put this in?" She took Annabelle out from under the leather suitcase, smiling as she held the doll in her arms. "I didn't expect you to like it so much, but Annabelle will be deformed if something heavy is pressed on it. Or should I help you hold it?" It was the transitional season between spring and summer. The golden sunlight shone on the woman's golden hair and slightly raised eyes. Her blue pupils were like a calm lake with golden ripples. Her smile was gentle and kind. In her arms she held a large doll and her skirt was swaying in the wind. Ray gently used a teasing gaze to look at her daughter. Siddle looked at Annabelle in Siddle's arms, was silent for a few seconds, then went forward to hug the doll. "No need, Mom." She curved her eyes and smiled at Ray. Her jade green eyes were so deep that others couldn't see what this 7-year-old girl was thinking. "I think she likes being with me more," she said. Siddle lowered her eyes to look at the little girl in her arms. The car swayed on the mountain road. The car window was slightly open. The golden sunlight shone on Annabelle. She gently stroked Annabelle's hair and spoke to her in a low voice. "I didn't expect Annabelle to like me so much. Do you want to live with me, become my family?" Siddle frowned, her white fingers tapping on the seat, and said a little sadly, "Family can't harm each other. Annabelle should know that too, right? Don't harm family. Can you promise to do this?" As she spoke, her fingers gently rubbed the hollow at the back of Annabelle's neck. After hearing Siddle talking to the doll, Kelson and Ray smiled in understanding. The child's words made Ray's mood much better. The scenery outside the car window continuously passed by. The lush green forests connected together to form a sea of green. Ray enjoyed taking a deep breath of the mountain air, smiling comfortably and saying, "I've really wanted a relaxing trip like this. Thank you, honey." The Overlook Hotel is a luxury hotel located on the top of the Rocky Mountains, a popular destination for vacationers. In other words, if you want the best view of the Rocky Mountains, the Overlook Hotel is the place to be. If it weren't so remote, I think it would be much more famous than it is now. Kelson shrugged, driving as he said, "In winter, the Rocky Mountains will close and the hotel will be out of business. But now it's summer, the best season to go to the Overlook Hotel to see the scenery." Ray smiled and tilted her head to look at him. "Oh honey, I think you're the best man I've ever met. I love you," she said, her expression filled with affection. Kelson smiled, "I love you too." Actually, there was another story about the Overlook Hotel, but it was rare for his wife to be so excited. Kelson hesitated for a moment but decided not to mention that unlucky thing that would affect Ray's mood. About 5 to 6 years ago, when the mountain was closed due to heavy snow, the manager in charge of looking after the hotel took an axe to his wife and daughter, chopped them into pieces, and stuffed them into a warehouse somewhere. After he finished everything, he swallowed the knife and committed suicide. Because the heavy snow cut off the hotel's communication with the outside world, the incident was not discovered until the following spring, after the snow melted. The news was suppressed by the hotel, but every time a new person came to work, the hotel manager would definitely remind the new employee. But the fact that after 5 to 6 years, there was no similar incident, this also proved that the hotel had no problem. It was just a madman disguised as a normal person, suddenly going crazy while working. Kelson did not want to affect his wife's mood because of a madman who had died 5 to 6 years ago. It was not a big deal anyway, he thought indifferently. The car drove fast on the mountain road. Siddle sat in the back and was silent for a long time. Ray turned her head and saw Siddle sleeping in the back. She leaned against the car window silently, curled up, her fluffy blonde hair swaying slightly with the bumps of the road. Her breathing was even and steady, obviously sleeping very well. Annabelle was leaning on her left side. Her 7-year-old figure was small, not much taller than that beautiful doll. In Ray's eyes, at this moment, a person and a doll were huddled together, like two children leaning close to each other intimately. She couldn't help but laugh, at the same time took a blanket and stretched out to cover Siddle. Conveniently, she also covered Annabelle. It took 2 hours to drive from their house to the Overlook Hotel. When the car was halfway there, Kelson saw a gas station ahead. The gas station was a bit shabby, the white paint on the wall was also peeling off in some patches. A thin man wearing a white canvas hat was lazily leaning against the wall smoking. Seeing the car coming, he took off his hat and looked over. "Boss, how many liters?" Kelson frowned. He clearly remembered that the last time he came here, there seemed to be no one. But he didn't think much of it, since there was a gas station attendant, he didn't need to do it himself. "Kelson, fill it up." After saying that, he handed over the cash. The man was wearing a dusty coat and had a scraggly beard. He raised his eyebrows to receive the money, tucked the cigarette butt behind his ear, and glanced at the person in the car. "Are you the new manager of the Overlook Hotel?" Kelson was stunned. "How did you know?" The middle-aged man smiled, lazily bent down to fill up the gas tank, and said, "I'm Hans, the boss probably hasn't heard of me, I often fill up gas for everyone here. A few days ago, I heard from the hotel staff that there would probably be a new manager coming." The sloppily dressed man handed Kelson a cigarette. "Speaking of which, I also have something I want to ask the hotel staff for help with." Kelson politely refused. "I don't smoke. But can you tell me what you need?" The man didn't pay attention, put away the cigarette and said, "The Overlook Hotel is on the highest peak of Rocky Mountain, there is a house next to it, it belongs to a relative of mine. This relative of mine hasn't been back for many years, he contacted again a few days ago to say that his son and his friend want to come here for a vacation, want to go back to stay in that house. That cabin is not far from the hotel, if you drive, it will take less than 10 minutes. He took a puff and blew out the smoke. "I want to ask the hotel staff to come and clean up for me when they have free time." The middle-aged man pointed at himself. "I have to work here, I really don't have time." He hesitated for a moment, then said, "I can pay, just clean the dust in the house." "It's okay," Ray replied with a smile. She thought that she would have to stay here for a few months, and she would have to deal with the gas station attendants. So she would just help them out, so she happily agreed. "It just so happens that I want to visit this mountain." "What does your relative's house look like?" "Thank you very much, madam." The man nodded to thank Ray. "It's a few very small wooden houses, and there's also a basement, but I don't think there's any need to clean the basement because it's very dirty." After filling up the gas, Kelson continued driving to the hotel. They couldn't see inside the gas station. The middle-aged man who had maintained a sincere attitude suddenly had a wicked look in his eyes. He threw the cigarette butt on the ground, stomped it out, and took out his phone to make a call. When Siddle woke up, the sun had already set. She rubbed her cheeks that were marked by sleep. Annabelle was still lying quietly beside her, the car door was open. Ray stroked her head, carried the still sleepy Siddle out of the car. Siddle originally intended to act spoiled in Ray's arms, but the scene when she got out of the car completely woke her up. A dozen people in neat and clean uniforms, tall and short, fat and thin, black and white, all stood in front of the hotel door, which looked like a large luxurious wooden house, shouting loudly in unison, "Welcome, Miss Siddle. Who are you, where is this, what should you do?" After a moment of panic, Siddle finally understood what had happened. When her father drove to the hotel, it was almost dark. Mr. Barnard, the hotel's deputy manager, had already led him to familiarize himself with the surroundings. Ray came out to welcome Siddle to their quarters in the hotel, and these staff members were all there to help with the luggage. Siddle breathed a sigh of relief. She thought she had just woken up and had transmigrated into some strange novel. "That's right," Ray said, "there's a package in your father's manager's office, I don't know who sent it. Mr. Barnard just sent someone to our family room, saying that maybe some staff member wanted to surprise us, and Mom opened it." "Siddle, Why do you have to bring home strange objects of unknown origin instead of throwing them away? Her lips trembled slightly, wanting to say something but stopping herself. After a long while, she said sadly, "So, what's inside?" "A wooden puppet," Ray recalled. "It's a bit ugly, but exquisitely crafted, similar in size to Annabelle." "Another one." Siddle suddenly remembered an old story. One fine day, Jun received a terrifying doll. He tried everything he could, but no matter what, he couldn't escape its harassment. He then quickly posted the doll for sale online, but every time he sold it, the doll would automatically return. In the end, Jun became a millionaire from selling dolls. Siddle thought expressionlessly, this method of getting rich seemed unrealistic to apply to Annabelle and the unknown wooden puppet. After all, they were both ugly. Seeing Ray wanting to carry her into the Overlook Hotel, Siddle quickly let go and slid to the ground. She ran to her car, hugged Annabelle, and held her waist tightly in front of her. "Mom," seeing Ray's doubtful expression, she calmly raised her head, "Annabelle and I are good sisters. So we have to share the good fortune and the bad fortune. I want to take her to meet her new friend, I think they will get along very well." It didn't matter if the wooden puppet was ugly, after all, Annabelle was quite ugly. Siddle hugged Annabelle in front of her, raised her head and chest, and strode into the main door of the Overlook Hotel, preparing to go to the accommodation to meet her new friend. In short, if there really was any danger, then you should just let your friend live. She thought to herself.